Welcome to the Glow Code podcast. My name is Kate Dove and I'm your host. The Glow Code podcast is a collection of bite-sized conversations designed to help you step into your main character energy, glow up, and connect with your femininity. This podcast is for the woman who wants to radiate her beauty from the inside out and move through the world with authenticity. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, and let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Glow Code podcast. I'm your host, Kate Dove. We have a couple of things going on today. So firstly, I just wanted to mention that so far today, I have really been in communication mode. I posted on Threads that I've really been loving Pinterest for sharing my author journey, my books, and everything like that. And I've just had a plethora of questions come through of how do I use Pinterest, like what should I post on there, and it's been really fulfilling to be able to help people with that because I think that so many of us use Pinterest to like make our vision boards and just visualize and get inspiration for things, but it often goes overlooked for when we want to use it for sharing our passions. So I've been in that flow today, and it definitely put me in the flow for this podcast episode. Also today, Mercury is going direct. For those of you who follow astrology, you know how important this is. We are coming out of Mercury retrograde. And if you're unfamiliar with astrology, basically when Mercury goes retrograde, it tends to cause some chaos and miscommunication in a lot of people's lives because Mercury represents communication. And that is actually part of the topic that I want to go into today with you guys, as well as pulling a concept from the previous podcast episode, so that way we can discuss how to stay at peace and stay regulated when we are moving through chaos. I've been through a lot of situations in my life where I wasn't necessarily the recipient of harmful words or physical actions, but I was a witness to a lot of it growing up. And I have been through my own conflict and traumas directly, but this was a core theme of part of my upbringing and what I've been through. And even though I was a witness to these things, it still had a major impact on me. And it really came full circle for me when I was looking into this part of my life and my soul plan with understanding moving through conflict and regulating myself and everything like that. Is I looked at my gene keys chart, which combines human design and astrology, and I saw that in my life's work sphere, it had to do with transforming conflict into peace. So that was really interesting that this has been a theme of my life and that it shows up in my gene keys and astrology and all of that. So I've definitely had a lot of time to not just think on how to regulate myself or why I'm going through something, but also taking the actions and understanding the energetics behind masculine and feminine energy and moving through chaos and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel when it feels like things aren't going our way and everything is crumbling. If you know the tarot, I'm talking like the tower moment, right? When everything is coming down and either things are becoming removed from our life or we are voluntarily letting go of things and it's just everything crashing down. When we are experiencing chaos in our life, it is coming from a wounded feminine energy. So if you have listened to episode 1 of the podcast, you have a foundational knowledge of feminine and masculine energy. And feminine energy is the essence that is intuitive, creative, and free-flowing. When the feminine is out of balance, it is chaotic, destructive. It can show up as codependency. So it's just this amplification in an unhealthy way of the feminine. And when we are trying to move through chaos, what we are actually doing is trying to cultivate our inner healthy masculinity, that support and that groundedness, and feeling stable and regulated within our own body. And I'm going to share with you guys 3 questions that I asked myself that you can ask yourself as well to get to a place of inner peace and regulation when things seem to just be erupting all around you. But firstly, I wanted to elaborate on a concept from the previous episode, which is the mirror theory, otherwise known as the law of reflection. And the gist of this universal law is that we cannot see in others what we do not hold within ourselves. And when we experience things in life, it is a reflection of our own inner self-talk, self-image, and self-love. And I gave some examples in that previous episode around the topic that we were discussing of how my self-image and something that I did with my self-image led to a better result with how someone was treating me. I didn't do anything different. I only did the work on my brain, my energy, and it led to being treated better from this other person. Now, I wanted to elaborate on this because there are 2 things that will happen when we start implementing this universal law into our life. When we start instilling new beliefs around our value and what we deserve, and not just saying like, I deserve this and I deserve that, but actually feeling it in our heart and our body, feeling that as truth, feeling that as our normal. The first thing that'll happen, or the first option I should say, is that people will either fall in line, or the second option is that people will fall away. And this definitely happens when a lot of people go on spiritual journeys, because you learn so much about yourself and you start changing yourself, and people either rise up with you or they fall away. And not even just with spiritual journeys, this can be with financial journeys, romantic journeys, etc. Sometimes, all too often, what'll happen is we make the decision too quickly to cut contact with someone and remove things from our life without understanding the law of reflection first, implementing that, and then seeing the shift that is made. So when we are experiencing chaos in our life, that is the first thing we want to do. We want to take responsibility for our own role in this, because it is in our reality and it's in front of our eyes. We are experiencing everything about it. And this doesn't have to do with what is right or wrong. This has to do with understanding and recognizing what our role was or is in the situation. So with the mirror theory, it allows us to look inwards and to think, okay, this emotion that I'm feeling from the situation is popping up in another area of my life that I feel unappreciated or undervalued or frustrated. Insert whatever emotion you want to put in there. And by recognizing that, it allows us to take control over the situation, because like I mentioned in the previous episode, our self-image and our self-love not only radiates through how we speak and how we act, but also in our electromagnetic field. It is that invisible energy that also communicates to other people and to the universe. And that essentially hands out a script to other people and to situations that we encounter in life. This step is part of the 3-question process that I'm going to share with you, but I just wanted to share that and elaborate on the concept so that way you understand it, because on one hand, it will improve a situation or your relationship with someone, but also it can lead to a connection falling away things no longer serving you falling away, but it happens from a much more natural place rather than us forcing or us acting from our own heightened emotions. It allows us to draw our perspective inward and to regulate ourselves so that way we can hear our intuition and we can hear the truth of what we are feeling on the inside. The first question that you are going to ask yourself is, what is this teaching me about myself? And this ties in with the mirror theory and the law of reflection. It is the step of accountability per se, because you are not only just looking at your emotions and the situation for what it is, but also what is happening on a deeper level. Now, when you take yourself through these questions, this isn't meant to numb out your emotions. This isn't meant to disconnect you from your feminine energy. For those who may not have an understanding of feminine energy, it might seem like in chaos, feminine energy is when you are essentially a yes man or a yes woman and you stay small, you don't say anything, you bottle up your emotions to make everybody else comfortable. But the feminine needs to feel. And when I take myself through these questions, I'm not just like sitting here numb, taking myself through them. Like, I'll be crying while asking myself these questions. So combine these questions and this process with your way of releasing and moving through emotions as well, because we don't want the emotions to become trapped in our body. That brings us to question 2, which is, what is this saying about my needs and how do I give them to myself? So if we are feeling highly undervalued by someone, maybe your partner isn't taking you on dates, or maybe they are always looking at their phone when they're talking to you or when you're trying to talk to them. We don't work from the outside in, we do it from the inside out. So if you are in this situation, for example, and you are feeling unheard, you want to ask yourself, okay, what is this need that I have? And that need would be to be heard, to feel safe being heard, maybe to feel appreciated. And you ask yourself, how do I give these to myself? Because when you start filling your cup for that and increasing your capacity to receive the appreciation, the love, the devotion, then that person outside of you will, like we said, either fall in line or fall away if it's not a match. That goes for not only romantic relationships, but friendships, business partnerships, any relationship that you have in your life. And the third question is, how am I supposed to grow from this? Because things don't last forever. The chaos that you go through, it has to balance out. There always needs to be balance in the universe. It is a universal law that things are good and bad, positive and negative. If you are pushing in one direction really strongly one way, the universe has to balance out. So by asking yourself, how am I supposed to grow from this? You are looking at the light at the end of the tunnel and allowing this energy to move. Because when we stay stuck in our emotions, when we hold grudges, when we hold guilt and shame, our body feels that. For me personally, I held so much in my digestive system. I had that issue for so many years. And when I started releasing my emotions along with doing this work, which is self-image work, my stomach began to heal. So by doing this, not only are you finding mental peace, but it is also going to affect your physical body. I wanted to jump back to question 2 really quickly because I had paused the recording and I was gonna say something and now I forget, but I know it'll come to me, and it has come to me. So we're gonna jump back really quick to question 2 about our needs and how we give them to ourselves. And I wanted to share an example around this because this was something that was a major lesson for me and has led to this podcast, the books I write. It pretty much inspires everything I do, not just because of what it was, but what it taught me and how it helped me grow. I used to have a condition called vaginismus, which essentially made my pelvic floor so tight that being intimate would be extremely painful. And along with that, I would have anxiety attacks and panic attacks. And when I was going through this, I started to learn how to make myself feel safe. Instead of going right to being intimate with my partner and us figuring it out together, I started with learning about my own body, feeling different sensations from my own touch. And it was definitely a long process, and there is still so much that I'm learning about my body that I will continue to learn probably for the rest of my life. But through that, I was then able to tell my partner what I needed. I was able to set the example for what I expected. I was able to communicate what I felt. And so that applies to question number 2, because when you give something to yourself, you are setting an example and you are showing other people around you what you expect and how you receive. So going back to question 3, while also just summing all of this up, by asking yourself these 3 questions, you are really taking back your own empowerment. Instead of letting chaos just sweep you up and toss you around and spit you back out, you are taking control over the situation. This is one of the components of main character energy. Some believe that main character energy is about being entitled and just me, and even though these questions are me focused, when you improve your self-image, when you improve your self-love, that allows you to give more to other people. It allows you to give more to your passions, to fulfill your purpose, whatever you are feeling called to. Main character energy is recognizing the power that you have within, being regulated, and seeing how you are the conduit for the life and the energy that you are calling in, that you are manifesting. A main character is going to have a backbone. That brings us to masculine, feminine energy dynamics again, because when we are in our feminine, it's not about being pulled in 1,000 different directions and saying yes to everything, being swept up in fleeting moments or keeping ourselves small. It is about recognizing that we are capable. And I think I'm gonna stop there because that will lead me into a whole other tangent about how the masculine really appreciates that quality of the feminine. But again, I'm going to stop that here. Otherwise, we're gonna go down a rabbit hole. And I wanted to leave you with this today, with these 3 questions. And also with working through our emotions, I really love to set aside a time period for when I'm just going to deeply feel the emotions that are coming up, because we are human. We're going to feel sad, we're going to feel anger, we're going to feel rage. These are all things that help us, not hold us back. It only holds us back when we feel like we are powerless, when we feel like we can't do anything about the situation. But there is more than what we see with our physical eye. There's energy that we can work with. There is a whole body that we have that is so capable, that we can regulate, that we can feel safe in. So give yourself a day or two when you're going through chaos to really just sit in it if you need to stretch or do somatic movement if you need to. And then take yourself through these 3 questions with clarity, with the knowing that, like, even if you don't have all the answers right now, the answers will come. You are already doing more than enough just by asking yourself these questions. So maybe with question number 3, for example, of how am I supposed to grow from this? Maybe you're like, I really don't know. I just feel so defeated and I don't know what to do about this situation. It is okay. The fact that you asked that question is more than enough. The universe has heard you, and you have set the intention in your body, in your unconscious mind, to have the answer. When we ask questions rather than having like straight up affirmations, we actually receive the answer. So instead of repeating to yourself, I'm safe, I'm okay, I'm regulated, when you are going through these moments, instead ask yourself, how am I safe? How am I regulated? You want to find the proof, because when you find the proof, you actually believe it, and then your body and your reality will respond. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Be sure to rate and review the podcast if the content has been resonating with you, and I will see you in the next episode.